And especially when you consider like how many babies they're having versus how many babies the English people. I mean, they're openly talking about it. We're going to outbreed you.
This is why
they're talking about Islam versus the West, I believe.
When people talk about this issue, they often use the example of, Western countries not reproducing enough, not replicating their population. And they go, well, there's going to be a crisis because people are not having enough children. So immigration is needed to sustain the population. What they never talk about is why people aren't having enough children. And a lot of it is because economically, they feel like they cannot afford to. Culturally, there have been policies that have, focused on.
I think a lot of it has to do, again, culturally, with the fact that, I think the main thing, right? The fact that even if you have a 2-parent household, which I'm lucky enough to have, my wife and I, we have children. The majority of, I want to say 90% of my friends, both parents are working. I'm in a situation where we have done a lot of sacrificing, and my wife has been able to stay home. That is not the norm in those types of cultures, right? And again, and this is probably due to like a lifestyle thing, right? This is like a lifestyle issue where when you have, everyone wants their own car, everyone wants the big house, everyone wants to go out to eat every weekend and do. When you have that mentality, when you have that mindset, two parents have to work. Like, there's just no other way around it. Like, we have done a lot of sacrificing, and we don't do a lot of things a lot of our friends do because this is what we believe is best. And hopefully, that'll pay off in the end. But yet, when you have a society like the Muslim society, Islam, that's not an issue, right? Like, they have a bunch of kids, the wife stays home, and they just they bring down their baseline of their lifestyle is relatively low compared to what Americans want or are told they want or are told they need in order to stay happy. And I think that is a big issue, right? Because you don't need all that shit to be happy, but we're being told that we do. And there's like this cognitive dissonance where you're looking all day long at the TikTok and at the Instagram and all these reels of all these people doing these amazing things. And you're like, oh my God, if I don't do that too, then what does my life mean?
On things outside of the family, we haven't had a ton of like pro-family policies in Western countries.
There's a little bit of that, but then there's also the issue that a lot of people have careers and they're trying to wait. Okay, so if you're a woman, and you're in your 30s and you decided you want to have a family, and
so I'm playing this clip for a particular reason. I think kind of like Joe kind of loses the I don't know. I just don't like what he's saying here when it comes to like the women that want careers, and they're being sold they're being sold a bag of shit, basically saying that you want a career, you don't want to have kids. Listen to what he says here, then we'll have a discussion about it afterwards. By the way, if you're here, please subscribe. Just hit the button, one little click. It does me a lot of good. Small channel trying to grow, helps me out a lot. Please.
And you're 35, 36.
Yeah.
As you get older, the odds of you getting pregnant drop pretty radically.
Well, but this is part of the problem in Western societies is we've told women that being a mother is not as fulfilling as working in a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
And I don't know any women that are mothers that regret it or are unhappy. Most of the happiest people I know are women with children. Truly.
Yeah, they're very happy if that's what they want. And
you see, this is where, oh man, if that's what they want. Okay, so they want children, right? You're talking about what do they call it? Like a bell curve distribution, right? Where like that main part of that peak is women that want children. And then you have women that are like, I can't see what I'm looking at here. Then you have like, you have like women that are like sociopathic and crazy. And then on the other side of the bell curve, then you have, women that want to be like the next Jeff Bezos and can maybe get relatively close to it. You're not talking about like women en masse. And this is kind of like where he like pisses me off a little bit, because he's giving this new wave feminism thing like an out to kind of say like, well, you guys have all been told that you want careers and children are gross or you could do it later or whatever. No, you need to do it when you're younger. You need to do it when you have the ability, when you have your body is telling you when you're in your 20s, this is the time to do this shit, right? Because you're young, you're active, you're able, you're healthy, right? That's when you got to do it. And I feel like the women en masse have been sold this bag of lies. Like, no, get a career and a cat and you'll be happy. And then when you're 35, you can figure out children. That's a pretty shitty idea. I mean, it's just not. It's just not going to work out in the end.
If they're very miserable, if that's not what they want.
I'm not saying they all should have children, but there's a lot of people. When you meet a young couple with children, I've never met happier people personally.
Yeah.
Than that.
No, that's true. As long as they're getting along, and as long as the woman actually wanted to have children.
See, what does that mean? As long as a woman wants to actually have, like, what do you think? Like, what is he talking about? Like, he has there's something going on there, right? There's something going on where I don't know if he's just trying to please the feminists that are watching Joe Rogan. I mean, what fucking feminists are watching Joe Rogan? Like, I don't get where his angle is here.
Yes,
but there's a lot of women that are like. There's this lady that I knew back in California. It was really sad. She was like super career oriented, and she had a child that was friends with my child, and she was never home. I mean, she would get home at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
She worked in high profile business.
Yeah.
And was there all day long. And when she came home, she was exhausted and short tempered, and
right.
It was not good.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. And what percentage of women is that? What percentage of women are you talking to right now? So you knew a woman who was super high functioning, super high, in the world of finance, and she came home and she was tired. Okay. Do you think that's 10%? You think that's 5%? I'm gonna go on a limb and say you're talking about single digit percentiles here, probably even lower. And so because that one woman, was tort with her child when she came home, that's not a good idea to have kids, or you're trying to sell women that maybe you don't want to have kids.
Well, it was not good, and the kid was miserable,
and the kid was upset.
Yeah, but it was a lady that
would have been more miserable had the kid not been born. I would argue that point.
Tried to have a kid later in life.
Right.
She's a career woman, and she had, like I said, high profile job, very important job, and the kid was a distraction.
I'm not saying that women aren't capable of having jobs, or there's many women that are amazing in the corporate world, but I am saying that, like, when you completely, center a culture around ideas outside of family, career, money, status, and you build.
Tim is really getting to a good point here, and Joe is like, you can tell that Joe is having an issue with it. You could tell that Joe is like, I don't want to upset the women that don't. The women that were lied to, they were lied to, and they don't find out till the very end. You see it time and time again. You see it over and over and over again. The stories of these women coming out and this is what your body was naturally designed to do. Why do you think they have the dogs and cats and shit like that? Because they need something to nurture, something to love, something to take care of, something to care for, something that gives them feedback. And there's nothing that can come close to having a kid. Nothing. I mean, I tell people all the time, I have the young people at my job, wherever, I'm like, listen, settle down and start having kids. You have to. It changes you as a person. It changes everything about you for the better. There's not one thing that is not for the better. It makes you more responsible. It makes you more attentive. It makes you able to regulate your frustrations and everything. It just makes you a better person. There's no way that you cannot now take yourself as a young person, as a young 20-year-old, now put yourself in the position where you're a father or mother, understanding that and not changing your life almost completely for the better. It always happens. It always happens. That's what we all need to do. That's what we all should do. Some people don't want to, and that's fine. No biggie. But again, what Tim's selling point is, listen, we just need to say that, okay, careers are cool. They're fine. You could do that if you want. But this thing, having families and having children, is way better. And it is way better. It is way better. It's way more important to have families, have children, and just be together and to raise the next generation. That's what it's all about. That's way more important than you working for a company for 30 years and getting a watch at the end.
Build a structure around all of those other things, and you go, well, maybe we'll have one kid to have a bigger house, or maybe we'll have one kid to live in a better neighborhood. And you start going, well, wait a minute. What is the purpose of this? And a lot of that seems to be somewhat by design. And then other cultures come in that do value family and having lots of children.
Yeah.
They are going to outnumber you pretty quickly. And their values will become the values of the larger society.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing that's going on, too, is that from, the 60s, 70s, and then when I was a child, you could sustain a family on one income.
That's right.
Today, that's virtually impossible. If you're making $50,000 a year, $60,000, it's really hard. It's really hard to get by.
Yeah.
And if you have a wife and a family, and you have bills and a car and maybe
terrible.
2 cars, it's fucking rough.
Yeah.
And Dave Smith talked about that.
Yeah.
Thank the people who brought us into wars that cost trillions of fucking dollars.
Well, not only that, I was talking to my aunt about immigration, who I like, and she, was basically going, I said, I think you also have to pause legal immigration for a minute. And she goes, well, then who's going to be your doctor? Because she has an Indian doctor.
Oh, boy.
And I said, well, wait a minute.
Hilarious.
I said, hold on.
That's hilarious.
That's what she said. She goes, well, who's going to be your doctor? She's a boomer aunt sitting at my house in Southampton, going, well, who's going to be your doctor? And I go, why are we not training American children to be doctors in America?
What'd she say to that?
She goes, well, no one does their homework. I was a teacher for 30 years, and I know that no one does their homework. And I go, do you think it's possible that nobody does their homework? Because we need 2 incomes to run a house, and kids are left to play video games by themselves, and they're not being parented, So I think this idea of we're importing doctors, you know what I mean? Because this whole idea is oh, these are jobs Americans won't do. And then they're like, well, it's agriculture and stuff. And it's like, okay, you can understand some of that. But then you're like, wait a minute. Are you saying Americans don't want to be doctors? That's crazy. They don't want to work in hotels or restaurants. Then you start going, well, what jobs can Americans do? I mean, Mark Andreessen came out, and I don't know if you had to have the quote, Jamie, but Mark Andreessen literally was talking about, and I don't have a problem with Mark Andreessen per se. I think this statement was silly. He said, oh yeah, after AI takes over, one of the only jobs that's going to be okay, I swear to God, he said this, is venture capital. He goes, that'll be okay. Because we'll still need to make judgments about what's a worthy investment strategy.
How convenient that his job will be saved.
Well, this is the whole thing. Right. Yeah, right there. Mark Andreessen says one job is mostly saved from AI venture capital. It's just funny to me
That's hilarious.
That this is the direction. If immigrants were taking the jobs of Hollywood screenwriters, they would not be celebrating it. If immigrants were taking the job of people at white shoe law firms, they would not be celebrating it. If they were taking the job of investment bankers, they would not be celebrating it. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
It's not anything wrong with the immigrants who come here. Obviously, that I would come here too to take someone's job because I'd want to survive.
It's just a weird argument, who's going to be your doctor? It's a really weird argument. And it's kind of, I mean, no disrespect to your aunt.
No, let's do it.
Kind of racist. This episode is brought to you.
Yeah, so I kind of played this for the very beginning. And then it kind of, it obviously that's what Joe does. He ventures off into other things. But you could see that Tim was really trying to steer him, and I believe the right direction. I believe he was trying to get him to understand that the culture that we are promulgating, however you want to say it, in this country is not conducive to raising families, number one. And also, it gets back to my point initially, where, Joe then made the argument, well, we can't have a household with single income. That, again, I'm showing you that you can. I have a working man's job. I don't have anything crazy, but it's our lifestyle that we don't do the things that everybody else shows that they want to do. I drive a very old car, or we only go one place a year that's to go see her parents. We don't do vacations pretty much ever. We don't eat out a lot. There's a lot of things that hopefully we're laying down a foundation where we'll be able to do those things down the road when the kids are a little bit older. But with society, the way it's structured, it basically just says you need to do these things now. You need to do these things now. Everyone needs to work, pull all your money together, and do all the cool things that you can right now. Just get it while it's good. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but then you're gonna have to suffer on somebody else raising your children, maybe not having that many children, because then it is going to be expensive, because then you're paying for daycare, then you're paying for childcare, then you're paying for all these additives that in my view are kind of unnecessary. If you just made the culture more susceptible to saying, listen, let's have kids, try to somebody stays home with the kids for nice 10 years, or at least till they're school age. I don't understand why a mom can't stay home with the kids at least until they're school age, and then she can go do whatever it is she needs to do. Listen, again, I'm not saying that's what you have to do. I'm just saying it is an option. It is a good option, and it is still viable. You just have to make different decisions. I don't know, kind of a different video, guys. Let me know what you think. The entirety of this episode is actually pretty good. I just love Tim. Tim is one of my favorite guys out there, doing it every single day. I never miss his show. Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan. Guys, if you want to follow me on X, 6283Talk on the X, please hit that subscribe button. It does nothing. My name is John Soto. I will see you again on the next video. Take care.